Hey everyone, so welcome to Clean Code with Jason. Today we are going to dive into chapter 2 of Clean Code, meaningful names using Python examples to show you how naming alone can take your code from messy to masterful. So let's get started. Well, meaningful names are soul of readable code. Uncle Bob teaches us how to pick names that reveal intent, avoid ambiguity, and make your future self say thank you instead of what the hell. Core lessons from this chapter are use names that reveal intent. Then we're gonna like look at avoid misleading or vague names. Then we are gonna make take a look at be consistent and descriptive, and then we're gonna take a look at add just enough context and avoid cute or cryptic namings. So let's take a look at the first example. Let's say we have d equal to 3 and it's like we write something like this. So here it means avoid cute or cryptic names. So we have no idea what d equal to 3 is or what I equal to 3 is. So a good alternative would be to write something like day since last login. So this kind of makes sense to the reader, right? So what we can see is your variable name should make so what we learn from this is your variable name should make comments unnecessary. Well, instead of just directly writing like uh, last date of login or something that makes sense in terms of comments, but we need to mostly avoid such names and try to make it as descriptive as possible. Now, let's say we have something called uh, we have something called account list, a dictionary. This is a dictionary, but of course, it is a dictionary, but more than just a dictionary, it's like a map. So making like account list, which doesn't make sense to developers, we should try to make use of account status map, which makes the developers understand uh, that it is not gonna be a list or an array of something, but it's gonna be like a mapping, a dictionary site. So what we can learn from here is we need to avoid disinformation because we know that list means an array of items, but that is like a disinformation, right? Now let's take a look at the third point. So the third point is going to be make names searchable and pronounceable. So for example, if you're going to have something like define GTMR, it doesn't make any sense. GTMR, even I'm not sure what is it, but instead of writing short forms of these function names, we can make something like generate timestamp. So generate time instead of like minutes, hours, we can make a descriptive name to the function so that any developers, once they see the function, they'll be able to understand what the outcome of that function is going to be. So a model that we can have over here is if you can't say it, you won't explain it. If you can't search it, you can't find it. Now, we need to avoid noise and redundancy. So the fourth point that we're going to take a look at is avoid noise and redundancy. So for example, the user data structure. If we have, so we know the user data structure. So we know by default it is going to be a data structure, right? But why do we have to add this? We already know it's a kind of a data structure. It could be a string, it could be any random data structure that we're going to use, but we don't have to again tell the developers that it is a data structure, right? So instead of that, you can just directly write something like this. So we need to avoid noise and redundancy. So every extra word is a distraction. Strip the noise, keep the meaning. Now, yeah, so uh, next is to add meaningful context. So another important thing you need to learn is to add meaningful context. Now, if we have a function name like define calculate, but as a developer, we don't know what is going to calculate as of now. But if you can make a function names like calculate invoice total, so we got a gist of what is going to happen. So it's going to be a calculation of invoice that's going to happen in this function rather than just vague names like this. We can add a little bit of meaningfulness into it. So which not really helps the other developers, but it is going to help you as well in the future if you're going to reference the code again, right? Uh, Now next, let's take it for another example. We have DP return D by P. I have no idea what this shit is, but now, let's say with meaningful words, you are able to understand that we are calculating the discount percentage, right? Discount price, return discount by percentage. So, the main motto behind this naming is your function name should read like a sentence. Let the name do the explaining. So, by this, we can understand that we are trying to get a discount. So, instead of going with vague names, meaningless, simple, alphabets, try to make yourself involved in writing functions, variables that make sense to you as well as someone else who's reading it, as well as it gives an it gives an gist that what the function is going to do. So I guess that's about from this chapter, clean code, how to name like a pro. I'll be pushing these codes into the GitHub, and you can capture these code from there. Thank you. Stay tuned for the next chapter, which is where we are going to learn about functions.